Welcome back to the Winning Brief Soundbites. I'm Mabel. This is the final episode in our series on Belgium's new criminal code. Over 5 episodes, we have covered the reform, the new sentencing structure, corporate liability, ecocide, and white-collar crime. Today, we bring it all together. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the practical steps lawyers should be taking right now, and you will practice phrases you can use when guiding clients through a major legal transition. The new Belgian Criminal Code enters into force on the 8th of April 2026. If you are listening to this and thinking, I should probably look into that. Yes, you should have started last month. So what happens on the ground when the switch flips? First, transitional rules. Courts will generally apply the old code to offenses committed before the 8th of April 2026. But here is where it gets interesting. Under the principle of lex mitior, the more lenient law, if the new code provides a lighter penalty for the same conduct, the defendant can benefit from the new rules even for older offenses. Defense lawyers will need to compare both codes, offense by offense, to determine which version is more favorable to their client. Second, internal investigations. Belgium's new Private Investigations Act entered into force in late December 2024, and it introduces complex obligations for companies across all sectors. If your client conducts internal investigations, and most large companies do, the rules have changed. In certain circumstances, companies may be required to report criminal conduct uncovered during an investigation to the authorities. That is a significant shift in the relationship between corporate self-policing and state enforcement. And third, whistleblowing. Belgium's whistleblowing rules have already led to a noticeable increase in reports. More reports mean more internal investigations, which means more exposure to the new rules on both criminal liability and investigation procedures. These 3 strands, the new code, the Private Investigations Act, and whistleblowing are not separate developments. They are converging. So, what should you be doing right now? First, review your client's compliance framework against the new code. The offenses have changed, the penalties have changed, and the rules on corporate liability have changed. A framework built for the old code can have gaps, and as we discussed in episode 4, gaps can become evidence. Second, update your internal investigation procedures. The Private Investigations Act imposes new obligations on how investigations are conducted, how data is handled, and in some cases, what must be reported. Privacy compliance is particularly important here. Employees and trade unions are increasingly using privacy rules to challenge the outcomes of investigations. And third, do not overlook the language. This series has flagged 2 examples, professional ban and deliberately, in which the English circulating in Belgian legal publications is imprecise. If your team advises international clients on Belgian criminal matters, the terminology you use must be accurate. Precision in language is not a finishing touch. It is part of the legal analysis. Now, let's practice some of the phrases from today's episode. 1. Under the principle of lex mitior, the more lenient law applies. Lex mitior is a fundamental principle of criminal law across European jurisdictions. Being able to explain it clearly in English, the more lenient law applies, is a skill your clients will value. 2. A framework built for the old code can have gaps. Built for signals that something was designed with a specific purpose, and that purpose might no longer apply. It is a clean way to flag that a system is outdated. 3. These 3 strands are not separate developments. They are converging. Converging means coming together to create a combined effect. It is an effective word when you want to show that isolated changes add up to something bigger. 4. Privacy compliance is particularly important here. Particularly important here is a useful qualifier. It tells your audience that while something matters generally, it matters even more in this specific context. 5. Precision in language is not a finishing touch. It is part of the legal analysis. A sentence that captures exactly what this series has been about. Use it when you need to remind colleagues that how you say something is as important as what you say. Now, time to practice. Repeat after me. Under the principle of lex mitior, the more lenient law applies. A framework built for the old code can have gaps. These three strands are converging. Privacy compliance is particularly important here. Precision in language is part of the legal analysis. Well done, and that wraps up our 6-part series on Belgium's new criminal code. From corn warehouses to ecocide, a lot has changed. Thank you for joining me. Keep practicing, and I will see you in the next series. If this series has been useful, share it with a colleague who advises on Belgian or EU criminal matters. And if your team wants to sharpen the English they use to discuss complex legal change, that is exactly what I do. You can find my work and book a conversation at thewinningbrief.eu.